Is being recorded and broadcast, so if anyone else is recording this meeting, please identify yourself so that I may make an announcement. Seeing none, we will move forward with please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Great. Our first issue of business will be to approve the agenda as it was posted and shared with the public. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lily. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Brendan. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None. It's unanimous. Great. Is there any input on the agenda items as it was described from the public? Seeing none, we will move on then to a couple of representative reports. I'd love to hear from our students first.
Hi, my name is Leah Frandy, and I'm the president of the senior class.
Hi, I'm Colby McGowan. I'm the vice president of the senior class.
So we have some exciting things happening here at Hull High School that we would like to share with you. So we kicked off Spirit Week today at school with Grinchy Monday, where students wear green, as you can see. The other themes for the week are Holiday Hair Don't Care, Winter Wonderland, Candy Cane Day, New Year's Eve, Ugly Sweater Day, and Pajama Day.
The school is also busy decorating their classroom doors for the annual door decorating competition. Winners will be announced on Tuesday, December 23rd. And Ms. Helmer is preparing a fun day at school before break with Donut King breakfast, gingerbread house decorating competition, and activity sessions and more.
And student government is, our focus has shifted to preparing for the first ever Tinsel and Talent Winter Showcase, which will be on January 13th at 6 p.m. Tickets are on sale for $10 for an adult and $5 for a student. We would love for you to come out and see the show and support our amazingly talented faculty and students. And I think that's all we have.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Any follow-up questions for our students?
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. And do we have Hull Teachers Association?
Just a very quick report. The student representatives just covered a couple of the points I was going to discuss, but just very briefly, today high school math teachers met with our new instructional coach and are feeling very positive and hopeful, they said, about working together going forward this year. Down at the Jacobs School this Thursday, December 18th, the Jacobs Theater Department will be putting on a play called Dear Edwina Jr. in the Jacobs Cafetorium. Adult tickets are $10 and student tickets are $5. And that is all I have, just a couple little positive notes for you guys.
Fantastic. Those are great updates. Questions, comments?
I'm really happy to hear about the math collaboration that's going on at the high school. It's wonderful.
Great. Thank you. With that, I think we can move over to, nope, we have a couple of minutes to approve that were included in your packet. School committee members, we had minutes that were shared from December 1st during our open session. And assuming that you've had an opportunity to review those, is there a motion to approve those minutes as they were shared?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Elisa. Is there a second? Or was that?
That was me.
Oh, sorry, Courtney.
I will second it.
And
if you'd
Elisa
like.
can second it. Sorry about that. I looked down right as I heard a voice from that side. Wonderful. All those in favor of approving the December 1st regular meetings minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous. It is approved. Fantastic. All right. Some exciting things happening in superintendent's business. Pass it off to you.
Thank you very much. So we've got several people to present to the school committee tonight. So we're going to kick it off with an international field trip. If you remember, Ms. Wall and Ms. Folletti were here earlier, and they've sort of redone their thinking, and they're going to propose their what they think is going to be the hit to go forward. So I'll invite them up to the podium to walk us through where this landed.
So Kim and I have decided to join forces, and instead of 5 PI doing its own separate trip to Paris, and student government potentially doing a global leadership summit for the first time ever, which I'm so excited about. Instead of doing 2 different trips within the same year, we've decided to merge into one. And luckily, the Global Leadership Summit in 2027 offers a Paris itinerary. So that's kind of where Kim and Phi were thinking of going. We unfortunately didn't get too much interest in Peru, so we shifted and listened to the kids to where they want to go, and they're very intrigued in Paris. So this Global Leadership Summit is something that I'm really excited about. I had never heard of it before. It's offered through EF Tours, which is the company that we use for prior international travel. And what they do is they offer a 3-day leadership summit in a different country every year. And then surrounding countries, they offer itineraries that coincide with what the theme is. So this year, unfortunately, we missed its stewardship. They're focusing on the environment, and it's in Costa Rica. So the kids would go to the Galapagos and things like that. But the 2027 is in Prague. So with that, I wanted to show, will you switch to the next? Before I just quickly kind of say what Summit is about, I wanted you to watch real quick. If this video doesn't make you excited and give you energy, I don't know what does. This makes me really excited. That was, what did I say, Berlin 2022? Yeah. How do I go? Oh, I guess maybe just try to skip. All right, so while we go back, what is Summit? So 2027's theme is social responsibility. Oops. It's like a remix. I don't know how to do it. Did you see all the Saturday Night Live when sure did? Okay. We'll keep going. So, what is social responsibility? The well-being of our world is a shared responsibility. From 1 second.
Bottom right.
Get back.
Bottom right.
Bottom right. This?
Yep. No.
Oh, thank you. Oh. There we go. All right, so what is Summit? The well-being of our world is a shared responsibility, from advocating for human rights and supporting sustainable businesses to considering communities near and far. Each of us should understand our impact and lead with purpose. So how can we force for good on a global scale? Together, we'll discover how the next generation of leaders can create a future rooted in empathy, engagement, and ethical action. So this itinerary would be July 7th through 15th. 3 of those days would be in Prague. The next slide, Kim, is just kind of some reasons why attending Summit for the students is important. So some of the bold, I don't want to take up too much time and read through all of them, but build stronger and more effective leaders, provide real-world global perspective, encourage innovation and new initiatives, and inspire to lead with confidence. So throughout the day, students are participating in workshops that really focus on communication, conflict resolution, strategic planning, and they can bring all of these things back to the high school to incorporate into the student body. So I think we skipped one slide. this is the itinerary. So day one, we will fly overnight to Czech Republic. We spend the day in Prague, take a walking tour of Prague, where peaceful leadership changed the course of history. Again, these itineraries are focused to the social responsibility theme of the summit. Day three, again, we're in Prague. So we're doing a tour focused on the Velvet Resolution, a nonviolent transition of power in former Czechoslovakia. And then we kick off our leadership conference day 4 and 5. From Prague, we would fly to Paris, home to the French Revolution, which inspired revolutionary ideals worldwide. Take a walking tour of Paris. Day 7, we remain in Paris. Visit the Human Rights Center to explore how revolutionary ideas about equality and justice continue today. Day 8, we are also in Paris, where we participate in an activity centered around social responsibility, so I'm intrigued to see what that will be. And then day 9, we depart for home. So is this a little shorter than Italy? Yeah, a day shorter than Italy. Just some pretty pictures. This is Prague. The next slide is some photos from the Global Leadership Conference itself. And then we wrap up with iconic Paris. So this is something new that EF Tours is now offering, unique to the 2027 Summit Experience. A 3-credit online college course is available at no additional cost, $1,500 value. The deadline for registering and beginning coursework is 60 days prior to departure, and EF Tours will give us more information once we officially book with them. So I know one of the questions is definitely cost. The summit is a little more expensive than a typical tour with EF because of what the summit entails. They offer so many things for the kids. So between having speakers come in, between the kids doing workshops, they give the kids events every night. So they do like a glow-in-the-dark silent disco where the kids are like wearing the headphones and jamming out. So it's really packed with stuff for the kids, which bumps the price up. So how do we help families afford a trip like this? I have lots of ideas, and because this isn't until July of 2027, we have a ton of time. That time reduces the monthly payment for families. It makes it much smaller. So instead of a 2026 tour where they might be paying like $800 or $900 a month, they could throw $200 or so. And then fundraising. So the kids will get their own page through EF that they can kind of blast on their social media. But I have kind of some bigger ideas for fundraising. The Tinsel and Talent Winter Showcase, I would love proceeds to go to that. I would love to host a school dance. Right now we just do homecoming and then we do prom. Some sort of fun paint night, maybe a faculty versus student sports game outside of just the basketball game that we do. I am receiving a ton of recommendations for baseball when it gets warmer, a baseball game, softball game. Bring back the haunted house here at Hull High School. I don't know, Courtney, was the haunted house here when you were here?
It was.
That haunted house was unbelievable here at the high school. Scott Saylor will probably kill me, but if we can bring it back, it was fantastic. The Hull Holiday Showcase we participated in last year at the Nantasket Beach Hotel. Maybe doing some sort of like bingo night, trivia night, and then doing the smaller, I don't want to say cliche, but smaller scale fundraisers I'm happy to do too, like bake sales and car washes, but I'm really kind of looking at fun events for the school that the kids will love, that the community can be involved in, and that will make some money for the kids. So we raised $10,000, just under $10,000 last year for the Italy trip in a very short amount of time, so I would love to easily double that. And that's all I have. I'm really excited for this. I think this is an awesome opportunity. We want to open it up to the whole school. I would love for student gov kids to really get involved, presidents, vice presidents, the treasurer, secretaries. I would love for presidents, vice presidents of clubs, NHS kids, captains of sports teams, anyone that can, utilize these leadership skills and bring them back here just to make us bigger, better, and stronger, I think would be awesome. So that's all I have. Do you guys have questions for me?
Thank
Me
you.
and Kimmy?
Thank you both.
She's gonna be my guard dog.
Excited to hear from the committee thoughts and questions that you might have.
I have a question. How many students do you need to attend to make it viable, or is there no minimum?
So the minimum is 6. I don't know if we feel comfortable going with only 6 because, so with EF Tours, for every 6 students, they provide a chaperone. So if we had 6 kids, I'd be going international by myself.
Oh, you wouldn't both go? I see. So you need
So
12.
we would like to have a minimum of 12.
So it would be, with 12 people, it would be
Yep.
you two plus an EFT staff person, or just you two being paid for by EFT?
No,
Ju-
they have a tour director that's with you 24/7. We had one in Italy. They're with you. They're local experts. They speak the local languages, so they really are your go-to person. We are there to keep track of the kids. They are there to help the trip run.
Okay. And there's just one EFT plus you?
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
And then the bus driver that stays with you just about the whole time. I'm not sure what this trip would be a little bit different because we don't travel as much as Italy.
Yeah.
But we had the
Yeah,
same bus
Italy, we
driver.
were in like 7
Yeah.
cities in 9
Yeah.
days.
So your minimum is 6, your
Um,
goal is 12?
I would
Yeah.
love, I would love 12.
I would say, I mean, I personally wouldn't be comfortable going abroad with 6 kids on my own. I don't think that would be what we would want to do.
How many kids went to Italy last year?
23.
23.
Mhm.
Why not the same number again? Why 12 is the max or cut off?
No, not that.
No, minimum,
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
minimum, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So there were the two of you with the
And one more.
20-something?
We had
And one more.
3 Hull.
Oh, okay.
It was
Yeah.
Julie Galuzzo.
Mhm.
It was Miss Galuzzo's trip last year.
Is it open to anybody? You mentioned the vice presidents and, you know, the kids in those committees.
Yeah,
Can a regular kid go?
yeah,
Because they can join 5.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. We don't want just somebody to say, I'm just going to sign up for the trip. We want them to be involved.
Yeah, like a
with
business
something.
case or
Yeah, but
show interest.
anybody's allowed to join by, you know,
Yeah.
the more the merrier, and there's no election like there is in student government, there's no election like there are for sports captains. They just would be a member of FI and would be eligible to go.
What are the grades that it's open to? You said all students, but is it?
so it's rising 9th through graduated seniors.
Not graduated. Oh.
Yes. However, we're discussing the senior part because if with this trip being in July, if you're a senior, you just graduated in June. Our concern is, should you act a certain way on the trip, what do we as a school have to hold on to when they come back? I have talked to EF Tours about this, and other schools have raised concerns about the same thing. So they actually, just about an hour ago, folks over there sent me contracts that they use for situations like this. So I'll talk to Rob about that in the morning. But yeah, so right now it would be rising 9th through graduated seniors. That's EF Tours rules. And then we'll talk more about the senior part.
And this is in lieu of the Peru trip.
Yeah.
Just didn't get the interest.
I don't feel like the kids know enough about Peru or how beautiful it really is. It wasn't hitting them like we thought it would. The kids really wanted Italy, they want Greece, they want Paris, they want like
Don't we all?
Switzerland. Yeah, like they want, yeah, it was just something about Peru that wasn't hidden.
I think
But that's okay.
We just also want to say, when we were in front of you last time, we were really stressing the service aspect of it, especially with FI. So this is obviously a little bit different, but the commitment to service is still there. So all of these organizations that would be involved in this do service. Student government does service in their own way. FI is still doing service. So this is that global perspective leadership aspect of these clubs that we don't necessarily expose them to here. But still, that service part is not going to go away.
That seems like a good opportunity.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I never knew this existed, so I'm really excited.
Good find.
Yeah.
Lisa, did you have something else?
Kim, right?
Yeah.
Kim sort of addressed my question, which was basically connecting the dots between FI and the fact that this is a leadership conference, because FI is more community service, to my knowledge.
It is. It's kind of three-pronged, though. It's community service, but it is also really exposing the kids to more of a global perspective and working on their leadership skills in those venues. So we would kind of take, you know, what we learn or what we're preparing for with this trip and bring it into our activities and talk about it in Phi, but it would just not really have that service aspect on that particular trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My other comment has to do with, I think leadership is very important, and I also think that traveling is really important. But I wonder, in our community, the cost is going to be prohibitive for some people. I think I saw 4,500-ish was going to be the ask. You know, I wonder if there are more local leadership conferences, which could be just as engaging. And I know that's super disappointing because everybody loves Paris and Prague, but.
Where I mentioned that to Rob too, where I want to discover an option where if for the kids that can't travel to this extent, is there a conference locally, somewhere within Massachusetts, somewhere within the Northeast, somewhere within the country, even, that is cheaper? I haven't found something yet that compares to the scale of what EF's summit is, but there has to be something out there. So I've definitely voiced that to him, and I want to have an option for kids that can't go.
Or it could be building upon, right? That you
Yeah.
could travel to somewhere in Massachusetts or New England as a starting point, and then this amazing culmination.
Yep.
Back 100 years ago when I was a child, it was business leadership was the type of leadership conference that I went to, so maybe that could help guide your quest if you
Yeah.
are still looking.
Yeah, I would love that, an alternative.
And I think it lines up well with the new business course that is at the high school, if I may.
There is a student local leadership one. I think it's an overnight, maybe I don't know if it's a week or just shy of a week, but I can get you the details on that.
That would be amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Even if there's other things like, you know, a field, I don't want to say a field trip, but something where like the State House is doing, you know, it's during a school day and it's only a few hours, and it's something that is a leadership role, or I'm very open, so I want to make sure that all kids are able to get the same knowledge that something like this could provide if they're unable to travel to the extent of this. So yeah, if you guys have any recommendations, that would be awesome.
So the cost, 4,500, right, per student?
So it's more than that. It's 5,400.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
dyslexic.
So when you did it last time, when you went to Italy,
Yeah.
how much did people really pay after all the fundraising efforts, and
Italy,
give or take? I'm not going to hold you.
4,500.
45 without
4,500.
fundraising.
And then depending on how much they fundraise, because they did it kind of, the fundraising went to them individually.
Yeah.
I think it was about 4,500. And the trip actually that we presented to you for Peru was it was like about 5,100.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is 2 years out, so it, you know,
Right.
I'm sure that they build in some of that.
Yeah. And trust me, I totally
Yeah.
get there's no excuse or way to say like, well, 54 is not that much. $5,400 is a lot
Oh,
of
that's
money.
a lot. That's a ton of money.
Yeah. So I totally get it. There's no
But I liked your ideas about fundraising. I think Michael will kill me for saying this, but you could open up that parking lot during the summer for all the people that park there illegally and start charging them, or do concerts in the field or whatever.
Yeah.
But I guess bring it back to the outcomes of the event, or the 9 days away. What do we expect them to come away with, or what do they learn apart from travel, which will always broaden your mind?
Yeah. So my biggest thing, I really want these kids to come back with a sense of confidence, a sense of empowerment. I'm struggling. I'm the new advisor for Student Gov, brand new this year, and I'm kind of seeing everything through like a fresh set of eyes. These kids have amazing ideas. It's like the execution of it is where they struggle. It's the standing up in front of the student body and telling them their ideas and being afraid kind of the, you know, that people aren't going to agree. I want them to be able to feel comfortable, like commanding a room or a team or a club, and have a voice, and just, you know, let the knowledge that they gain from a conference like this really show. I'm struggling with that a little bit with with the officers that I have right now.
Gotcha.
Just a little kind of timid.
Mhm.
So I would love that. Do you have anything specific you can think of?
No, I think that's, the same idea, how to get ideas into action. And I think that's really what they focus on with a lot of the team building kind of thing is, within a smaller group, having one person kind of be the lead and practice. And what does that look like? And how do we get people to understand? How do we articulate our ideas to others and so that they can follow? And I do think, I've been advisor of NHS and Phi, and you do see that they have great ideas. They just don't quite know what to do with them. And so this is putting them in a situation with their peers, and they can work on that together and gain those skills, and then hopefully come back and model that for all of the other kids here in the school.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I want to go, like, sounds awesome.
If we get enough kids, we'll need more chaperones, so come
Okay.
on.
Elisa?
Sorry, that spot's already taken. I'll
No,
leave.
I'll fight you for it.
I love the idea that kids will be empowered to speak up and share their ideas and all those sorts of things, but I think a conference like this might be really overwhelming and not everybody gets to be up on stage, right? But locally, I think it's just as important to provide those opportunities for kids to get up and present in the classroom or even in bigger contexts like on stage. And that's free.
Yeah, and I think we as a school do a great job of giving those opportunities. I think the difference here is that they see other people that they don't know. And Hull is so small, and they see the same kids for a lot of times 12 years. And to be exposed to this very diverse group of kids who are there who are so excited about the same things. Personally, my son was very involved with DECA, which I know we don't have, but he always did the leadership conferences. And it was amazing, like the kind of things that they talked about together as peers with no really adult guidance, and just having that strength of all these kids coming together with great ideas and then figuring out how to implement them. And I think learning how to do that with kids that you haven't known since you're 5 is very powerful. So I don't want to say we're going to shortchange the kids who are here. I think it's just like a level that we can't always give them here. And if we can expose at least some of the kids, maybe again, we can bring some of that back here.
Those are excellent points.
Yeah.
So thank you. And I'd love to move this forward because this sounds fantastic. And what's helpful from us right now?
So right now the biggest thing would be approval for us to go so that we can then start contacting kids and families and letting know that this is in the works and have a meeting with parents to introduce the itinerary, any questions that they can have. That'll open up the portal where they can start making payments. The kids can start fundraising on their own pages. So really just a simple like, yes, Tia, we love you, or a no, Tia, not this time.
Hopefully we love you. And okay, so it sounds like an initial approval that we're on board with moving forward, and similar to Peru, we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and allowing the kids to have access to
we're not signing anything in blood. Yeah.
I have one more question before we do that. So normally this trip is done over April vacation, right?
Yes.
Which is within the school year. So are there any liability insurance issues that we need to be concerned about with this happening not in the school year, so to speak?
From EF Tours standpoint, the insurance that the kids carry when they travel during the school year is the exact same as out of school.
To piggyback, that's actually, having graduated seniors gives me great pause. They are 18-year-old adults, and they have graduated with the public schools, and although they're under EFT's umbrella, I don't see it that way under our umbrella.
But she's saying that they're gonna do an additional, or there may be an additional contract on top of.
Contracts.
Yeah, I
with
hear
no
you.
teeth, from my perspective, but if it was the Eliza show, and it's not, I acknowledge that, but I would not allow graduated seniors to attend this trip.
We'll be curious to hear how you proceed with that decision. And we can revisit it, but I think the flip side is that means that the group who's a juniors and right now wouldn't have any sort of it would just, I think, yeah. Is
So-
there, Okay.
Sorry, one other question or ask. So the current 8th graders, when they go into 9th grade next year, would they, and they join this group, would they be eligible?
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, if we didn't do graduated seniors, it would be this current grades 8 through 10? 8 through 10.
Gotcha.
This current
Okay.
years, 8 through 10.
Cool.
Ready to make a
Yeah,
motion
let's do
to
it.
approve
Yep.
it?
Go ahead, Lily.
I make a motion to approve your trip.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Brendan seconding it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you very
Sounds
much.
exciting.
Guys are we sweating up here? Thank
Thanks for giving me the chance to redeem myself.
Kyle, you know I love you.
We're gonna run to the basketball. We're gonna go to basketball.
Okay, thank you.
Alright.
Good luck.
Thank you both
Thanks,
so
guys.
much.
All right. Mike is our next speaker, and he is going to present from the front of the room.
Get out of full screen.
With Maggie and Diane, apparently.
So I'm going to reverse, I'm going to start with the UDL presentation first, but then I'll go into that one.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Mike,
If you walk around, you need to take them. Yeah. I'll open it on here. Okay.
Trying to tweak the way we get this screen to interact, so bear with us for a minute. I'll point out in the meantime that the central office also jumped into Grinchy Monday, so we got a lot of green in the office today. So we're going to follow the high school and a hybrid of the Jacob School Spirit Days. All right. Yeah, that's perfect. And I just advance with this. It works? Okay. So I will stand still. Do you want this?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So, good evening, everybody. So we have the whole team here tonight because when we set the schedule up, we were trying to rotate between the schools presenting, hearing from curriculum instruction assessment and special ed, and then having the whole team here for presentations also. So tonight is the whole team. And I just want to do a recap of Universal Design for Learning. You've heard it mentioned before. It's been part of other presentations, but we did some PD last week as a group of administrators, and I just want to dive a little bit into that and help inform the board a little bit about this work. So. There we go. So if you remember for the year that we have sort of our strategic vision and framework that we're working under, heading toward 2030. Remember that our phrasing is that we're anchored in excellence for every child, and there are no exceptions and no excuses to that. So under that guise, I just want to do this recap on what Universal Design for Learning is. And of course, we refer to it because we're big on acronyms in education, so we call it UDL. But that's what it stands for, is Universal Design for Learning. And I'll call it UDL from this point forward. So basically, a couple of reminders about it. It is research-based. So this pulls together a large body of research relative to education that helps to frame good practices for learning. It is also intended to be systemic, so it's not something that's done in a classroom or a program. It's really a systemic look, the whole public school system, looking at how to make sure that learning is accessible for all our students. And then finally, the goal here is really to reduce or remove barriers to learning. And we've had some dialogue internally. Removing barriers is ideal, but sometimes the barriers are beyond our control. They're not always removable. So then how do you reduce them or teach students to overcome the barriers that they face? And as we know, there are many barriers in life. So a couple of signature practices. So part of the research that guides this comes from the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, also known as CASEL. And so there are elements from CASEL that are embedded into the work that we're engaged in. So the first is that when we look at meetings, when we look at class presentations, we're talking about having an inclusive welcome, making sure that there's a setting the stage, if you would, for the learning by making sure that everybody is able to feel a part of the experience that they're about to engage in. And even more importantly, that the goals of that are really crystal clear to everybody from the beginning. So in a class, you might say the goals of this lesson today are, and you're going to really make that crystal clear to everybody at the start. Then, as you do your lesson design, you want to make sure that you are embedding engaging strategies throughout that learning experience. So it's something that this is the piece that I think we're continuing to work with our teachers to make sure that the full bag of tricks, if you would, is available to them so that they can have the engaging learning throughout the lesson. Our staff does a great job, but talking about those strategies is also key to helping to improve under a UDL lens. And then finally, making sure that there's an intentional close to each lesson or each experience, each meeting even, so that it basically builds that bridge going forward. So it's like we did this today because tomorrow we're doing this and the day after we're doing that. So it allows the opportunity to sort of build that bridge as we work our way across. So very intentional in the way we close out or exit an experience. A couple of things about the lesson components. The first one, now I shrunk my font here, so let's see what we can do. But basically, the teachers will set the firm goals that are then aligned to rigorous grade level standards. So again, as part of that opening piece, you're really setting that firm goal and letting students know about that. As administrators, when we're doing professional development, setting that firm goal and letting staff know about that. So it should be universal for all of us. The methods, again, we're looking for some alternatives to traditional teaching methods, and we're looking for making sure that the barriers are reduced, if not removed. So what are the things that allow people or that prevent people from accessing the experience, and then how do we have methods that will overcome those? When it comes to materials, we're looking to enhance our adopted curriculum materials by providing the options to make the learning more accessible. So, what are things that we can develop to enhance and to expand upon the materials that we provide? And then finally, the assessments. Here we're looking for authentic assessments. We're looking to personalize them for the students who are in front of us. We're looking for opportunities to expand choices relative to the assessments that students engage in. And so this is part of the work that we've been engaged with our staff. For professional development in UDL, you heard us mention this after the start of the year because in August, we had all staff participate in a 3-hour workshop. And it was Dr. Angela Burke from Novak Education that received very good reviews from the staff who attended. Dr. Burke is a pretty engaging speaker, and she was able to present really an overview of how to do this in the classroom with our staff. Then last week, so this December, we had all the administrative team participate over 2 days for an additional 6 hours of training. And it was Dr. Burke who was back to work with the administrators. And the goal of that was to enhance our ability to support teachers, our ability to understand what we're looking for when we go into classrooms with a UDL lens, and to just sort of tie all of this together. And I'll give an opportunity if anybody wants to chime in on what they got out of that. I'll give that opportunity in a minute. And then finally, coming up in January, so we have the PD Day, the Tuesday after Martin Luther King holiday, so that'll be our staff training day, and that's another 6 hours that'll be devoted somehow to advancing the UDL training for our staff. And so in this case, we have Pam Chu Sharif from Novak Education who will be joining us, so it'll be the same training company, a different trainer than we had before, but again, enhancing our staff ability to understand UDL and implement UDL in the classroom. With the administrator PD, so basically these were the 5 elements that we hit upon during our training. So it was really what are the best practices for the leadership team? So what are things that we can do in the classroom or in our meetings that we're holding? Second of all, looking to take implementation science. So there's some science about what we need to do to have things work and stick when it goes into learning, and we want to make sure that we're using that science to calibrate what sustainable practices are there. This is not a one and done thing. This is really systemic. It's really part of how we help to transform the school district, and we want to make sure that we're properly using that implementation science to get things that will help to improve teaching and learning for our students. We're looking at how we can incorporate it into PD strategies that we use, how we can use it in staff meetings, PLCs, really making sure that UDL just becomes embedded into the work. And part of the implementation science is that, you know, we model this always for our staff so that they then can model and utilize this with students. So that's part of the conversation. We talked about the 4 disciplines of execution. I mean, honestly, we didn't spend as much time on that as we did some of the other topics, but those are ways to make sure that we get things to stick also. And then finally, we spent a good chunk of time just leveraging feedback. So how do we provide feedback to teachers? What are the strategies that are proven to show that when you're providing feedback on a lesson, on a walkthrough, on something that we saw, that it's really feedback that will be meaningful and valuable and help to change practice and to improve practice. I put in here the Massachusetts rubric because the school committee is aware, I'm sure, that the DESE puts out the teaching rubric and that's the rubric we use for evaluating our staff. And so after the session, Dr. Burke went back and is taking the UDL lens and using it with the Massachusetts rubric. And has just given some information to our leadership team. So it's hot off the press, as in, I think it arrived over the weekend, to be honest. So we haven't had time to digest that yet. But again, in providing feedback and using the UDL lens on the rubrics, that will be an enhancement for our administrative team. So before I take questions, I just want to see if there's anybody who has something to add, or if I didn't say enough about something, here's a chance for anyone else on the team to contribute a piece or what they got out of the training that we did. All right, I guess I covered it. Thank you. So happy to take questions and ask my colleagues to help answer those. So
Wonderful. I'll invite comments from the committee.
Thank you. It seems like we're on it. I think I appreciate the presentation. I don't have any comments other than that.
I don't either, for once.
Yeah, I mean.
I've left you stunned.
I'm struggling to land the plane. Like, I read your slides, I heard you, but I'm like, okay, how do you make it real? I understand you do your 3 hours in August, 6 hours in December, and 6 hours, I forget when the other last 6 hours are, but I'm, you know, it's your approach to learning and teaching, but I guess I don't know what else, or I'm looking for something to grab onto, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah, what I'm hoping is that as we develop kind of a common understanding, so our team is looking at it with a similar lens. To me, it's about consistency. So, and honestly, you know this, it's going to happen classroom by classroom, day by day. And so the more we build that consistency into the system, the better off we're going to, the easier we're going to be able to ensure the plane lands safely, right? So
the methodology.
Yeah, and I'll say that sometimes I go into, to meet with a teacher and I can see some of these items already in place.
Right.
They got a very specific agenda from earlier in the day that they went over, and then what's coming next. And so I think some of these really good teaching practices are already in place, and it's good to kind of remind people about them, and those who aren't doing it already, help them to get on board. I think it's great.
Does this thank you, because I think this is an important thing that we have an understanding of as well, is just what is some of the basis for how lessons are being created and delivered. I think that it's easier for us to have, support, offer support and have a good understanding of what's happening in our schools if we know this. I'm curious how what you shared with us today or any of our UDL principals are informing learning walks. Is there is there a connection between what you're expecting to see in classrooms when you visit and what you just shared?
So, we've mentioned learning walks before, and we have the established look for. So when we go into a classroom on a learning walk, what is it that we're looking for in that classroom? UDL also has UDL look fors, and that was something that I think caught our team's attention to say, here's a way to really elevate the look fors and to align it with this work. So,
Right.
So those kinds of things that we learned about in our training, I think that just paints a picture of where we could head with this.
And I'm curious, were there exit tickets or other feedback that teachers were able to give based on the professional development that they received that gave us any indication of how it was received and how it went? Or
So a couple of things, and I'll look to Christine and Kristen for this because they chair kind of our professional development committee, but this was something that teachers asked for initially through survey feedback. They were looking for ways to better enhance the practices in the classroom and make it more accessible to staff. Am I capturing that feedback correctly? So, UDL was sort of in response to what staff were asking for, a better way to reach all learners. Every generation of teacher talks about kids are different today. And so it's like we got to keep up with that, right? You okay, Meg?
I'm sorry.
All of a sudden she's like, and I'm like, what did I say? Sorry. Yeah, but that threw me, sorry, that threw me, I was like, uh-oh. Yes, so anyway, teachers, that was a request that we had from staff, so.
Maybe after the January
Yeah.
PD.
but January was just admin.
And we had feedback, we always ask for feedback
January
from
will be
PD. So the PD that was done back in August, we received feedback on that, and we'll continue, we always ask for that at the end.
PD, professional development.
Which itself is a UDL practice.
Right, there you go. Go ahead.
The Universal Design for Learning, I don't think it incorporates how Google Classroom is set up, but it might be nice to have kind of a universal design for how Google Classroom is presented to students. I think there are hundreds of ways that teachers are setting it up, and students have to learn how it is for each individual teacher, and it might be nice to have some sort of universal standard of how to, like a best practices for that, just as an idea for the future.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
I think it's very inspiring that the ideas are coming from the teachers, like it's a bottoms up as opposed to a top down approach.
For sure.
And it sounds like the teachers you have are great and already doing a lot of that, but they probably just want to adhere to some type of methodology or do stuff the same so kids can expect it all the way through.
Yes, I agree.
All right, excellent.
Thank
Well,
you so
thank you
much.
for that. And so the next presentation, so I just want to provide kind of a high-level overview of the governor's report. So if we think back to our last meeting on the 1st, the governor's report on graduation came out that morning, and it's a 60-some-odd page document. People needed time to react to that and to think about it. And so if is this presentation mode, I guess? Yes? Okay, perfect. No, that's good. So a couple of things that I wanted to pull out of that and just, and I've also been in several meetings with superintendents and with the commissioner. We did superintendents had a Zoom call with the commissioner and secretary to kind of understand some of the aspects of it. So a couple of nuggets that are in there that I want to make sure that we emphasize. So the first is the vision of a Massachusetts graduate. So, we hear things like the portrait of a graduate or the vision of a learner. These are all interchangeable terms. There's really no differentiation from how we get to name what it is that we have for our students. But basically, the Commonwealth came out with this vision of a Massachusetts graduate. And what I like about it is it anchors on those 6 elements that you see on the screen and are in your packet. And basically, they're saying this is what we're expecting all students in the Commonwealth to be able to master. And so I just thought, like, you can spend a lot of time trying to discern what those elements are, and here's a model that's being presented to us that's already gone through a process to arrive at. So I just wanted to emphasize that that was a key thing. That apparently got released back in September. I think I missed it with all the start of the school day-to-day stuff, but here it is in the report, and I think it's something for us to revisit and to work on. So there's that. No idea how to scroll.
I think you have to, yeah. You go.
That. All right. Second are the recommendations that the governor put out. So what I have heard, this has been referred to often in the last 2 weeks as the 7 buckets. And there's a lot of dialogue around the 7 buckets, but what the signal we're getting from DESE is that the 7 buckets are not going to change. These are the 7 buckets that will paint the picture of what a high school graduate is expected to accomplish. The details about how to accomplish each bucket, that's the conversation that is still ongoing. And I think the work groups that that DESE is beginning to form are going to be around the 7 buckets and trying to figure out like where all these pieces fall. That's work that is still ongoing. And by the end of the year, we'll have a better sense of what each of these mean. But I want to spend a few minutes just talking about the 7 buckets. So the first is on the program of study. And so here, this is really... Okay, that was for me. So the first is on the program of study. So this is about a rigorous course of study that's going to align with the admission requirements for higher ed. So as they're thinking about redoing this, they don't want to take away from the fact that many students are college bound and that there are expectations that need to be embedded into that experience that they have. So so really it's that learning expectation, that program of studies. If it's MassCore or the other additional things that we have at the local level, that is a bucket that we're going to continue to get guidance on and have to pay attention to. The second bucket is called end of course assessments. This is really looking at making sure that not only does a student complete a course and a series of, a curriculum that's administered in that course, but there is also an end of course assessment that is administered that ensures that the material has been learned and mastered and that there is a competency determination relative to that. Here it is saying that they will be designed, administered, and scored by the state. There's been considerable pushback around that notion, and we're waiting for details to emerge on that. So not exactly sure what that's going to look like in the long run, but a lot of dialogue about is this, so MCAS is coming away in 10th grade, and end of course assessments is sort of a MCAS substitution, if you would. But there's a lot of dialogue to still be had as to what this means. And I know the State Teachers Association is weighing in with thoughts on this. People are considering and contemplating the vote that the public took and how that impacts this. But what they're saying from DESE is that this bucket will remain. It's just the details of what that looks like are still to be worked out by a work group. The third bucket relative to showing mastery, so second for showing mastery, is capstones and portfolios. And this is saying that students will complete a capstone or portfolio that is defined by the state and designed, administered, and scored locally. So there'll be some sort of expectation about what a capstone or portfolio would look like for graduation, but then a lot of details will be left up to each location to figure out what that looks like. So we've already, and Rob has been having conversation with staff about this sort of capstone experience for students. So more to come on that. But you know, you could think of this as a senior project. You could think of it as some sort of series of culminating events that would show that a student who's about to get a diploma has met that mastery by the experience that they have at the end.
Would there be one project or multiple for every subject?
So that's still to be determined. I think that's partly what we can weigh in on in terms of how we envision that. And then the last 4 items that are on here fall under college and career and citizenship readiness. So that's what CCCR is. And the things they're looking for are MyCap to be developed and maintaining that career and academic plan. So that's what a MyCap is. We already have work relative to MyCap, and we're continuing to develop that model out. So this is perfect that it's one of the buckets, because it's not like we have to say, well, what is that and how do we do it? We're engaged in that work already, and now it's showing up here as a bucket. The FAFSA or MAFSA, so the commissioner is adamant that students who complete the process of applying for financial aid have a higher likelihood of going on to post-secondary ed. And so they feel that having that as a requirement so that people can complete that in a supportive environment with resources through our counselors, et cetera, that's an important element for all students to do. They recognize that is also sharing some financial information that that families may not be comfortable with, so they've talked about kind of a low grade off-ramp to that if there are families who frankly don't want to participate in that. But they're adamant that we need to keep messaging up and make sure that that students have access to support and families have access to support in order to get that completed. So more to come on what that bucket will look like. Next is financial literacy. You know, it's interesting because we've had all this talk about the business courses, and here they're saying that really students graduating need to have financial literacy. They need to understand finances and the way they operate. And so does that become a new course in a program of study, or exactly how that ends up being fulfilled? The details will still be ironed out, but here it is as one of the buckets that we need to work with. And finally, seals of distinction. We already have seals of biliteracy, so students are able to earn those seals to enhance their diploma if they can demonstrate that they are literate in languages beyond English. This is talking about really exploring what seals of distinction a student could earn. So there were some examples in there where you know, somebody who completes a multi-course sequence in a certain field of study might get a seal of distinction added to the diploma for that. So it would go beyond just the biliteracy piece. You know, maybe like a robotics, I'm just tossing out there. If you take a certain number of courses in robotics, you can get the seal added to your diploma. And they really want to be creative and let schools sort of enhance what that seal can look like at the local level. So those are the 7 buckets. And the last slide, this just covers some key considerations, which you can read for yourself. I won't read them to you, but I wanted to make sure that we introduced tonight those 7 buckets for the school committee. And especially as we get ready to go to the next item on the agenda, which is the competency determination and policy, IKF. I thought grounding us in kind of the conversation that's to come. It's pretty exciting work, I think, and pretty exciting dialogue and efforts for our staff to engage in down the road. So, Rob, is there anything in your principal mind that I didn't hit that you want to make sure we hear?
You got it.
Okay.
How are you feeling about it? Like, because you went from a very structured, linear path to kind of like a nebulous and to be defined path, I would call it.
I feel good about it. There is room in here. I am very excited by that capstone portfolio option. I think in our conversations with staff in the last couple of weeks, a couple of departments, we've talked about what that might look like, what the components of a particularly a portfolio might look like. This is exciting. We've rooted those in UDL framework already. So I mean, good conversations already coming out of that. The end of course assessments is the sticky one. What that might look like, we'll have to wait and see what they come up with. But I think there is good here that will advance. I think rise the level of all students.
School committee
Just
members.
on the senior project piece or that capstone piece, so I was associated with 3 school districts in New Hampshire. All 3 had a senior project. That was a competency determination. It was a rite of passage. It was something that every child had to complete in order to earn that diploma. I was surprised when I read the report, because in there it says that in the Commonwealth there are, I think it was 21 schools that have a senior project in the whole Commonwealth. And so that number just jumped out to me. So Hull doesn't have one, but most schools don't have one. And I think they said that 8 of them were, don't quote me if I get the numbers wrong, but it's like 8 charter schools and another 4 vocational schools, or vice versa. So you're really left with a handful of traditional public high schools that have a capstone project as a graduation requirement. So, there's energy around this, and it's got people sort of dreaming and thinking about what this can be.
I think it's really important that we as a committee internalize this, make sure we understand it. Are there questions about what Dr. Jetty just presented before we move on to how it might apply here in Hull? But just making sure that we understand the content. Go ahead, Eliza.
On the 3rd page, the 2nd bullet, it says there are alternatives for certain student populations. Who are those students, and do you have any insight on why not all students having an alternative?
So I think, and I'm looking to Kristen for this, because I think that there have always been alternatives for students with learning disabilities, and I think that's what they're trying to capture with that. But again, the details will be ironed out, because if it's done well, you'll have this common set of courses, but there will be pathways embedded in that would allow a student who perhaps is more artistic to be able to follow a
Choice
plan
for
in the
all.
arts. So I think it really can allow for some variability there, but I also think that's intended to capture, when we say all students, we mean all students, and so that means different ways to help everybody through.
Okay. Thank you.
The design of it, should I hold that question, or is that coming up later? The design of the future state.
As it applies to Hull?
Right.
Yeah. Let's
Should I hold that question, or?
hold that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question on the FAFSA
Say it again.
as a requirement, or, I mean, it says that, or to opt out of the requirement. So which is it? Is it going to, is it circumstantial, or is it just you can do this and gain this, or?
So I think they've recognized that there will be some resistance from families. I mean, we've learned that we actually, because that data gets collected by the state and it is reported back to us, like how many families have completed that. We don't see any of the details about it, but we just know a number of how many have gone forward and completed that in the past. I think they're trying to increase that. I'll give you another example. So when I was principal, we made applying for college part of the senior capstone. You had to complete a college application, and frankly, if you went through the process, you could be accepted at one of the community colleges. And I had plenty of students who would say, but I'm not going to college next year. I'm doing some things differently. And I would say, you're not continuing your education yet, but I want you to know how to apply and access continuing ed, in a supportive environment where we have counselors who can help you fill that out. So we want to help you do that. I also want you to get that diploma knowing I was accepted. Because 5 years from now, if you're in a dead-end scenario, you can say, I was accepted, and I can do that again, right? So that was part of the reason why we didn't get into the financial aspect of it, but we just got into the filling it out and understanding what was available and possible for you. So, so again, it enhances everybody's ability to, how many studies are there that most of the jobs that our graduates are going to be doing haven't even been created yet, right? So they've got to be flexible, they've got to be nimble, and understanding how to access that continuing ed. I think that's the spirit behind that, and I think that's what will emerge. So, you know, maybe it's don't fill out the financial stuff, but fill out this application to go to a community college, which the Commonwealth is also providing to you free of charge. So, you know, but again, accessing that and knowing how to access it in a supportive environment is really important.
Yeah, the FAFSA is a fairly complicated process to complete, as those of us with recent high school grads can attest to. And, you know, again, all of these are recommendations at the state level, so they're not thinking specifically about any one particular, you know, they're not looking at Hull specifically, they're looking across the state. And in order to reduce the barriers for kids to continue their education, one way that the state schools can help is by making sure that there's support there for that really complicated process. So it makes sense to me.
I find it odd, actually. I mean, I can certainly appreciate applying it for college as part of the capstone. I think there's great value in that. But the FAFSA, the government loans are so limited, and they're tied directly to parents and not a student being able to ever take out enough loans on their own to pay for college. It seems misaligned.
The FAFSA is used for all sorts of things, though, not just federal aid, also state level aid, school level aid, work study, like all these. There's a whole lot that's wrapped up in the, even sometimes, you know, just cost of attendance and is determined in part by the FAFSA. But yes, who knows what will happen with the federal Department of Ed.
All right.
When does this come into effect, I guess?
Well, so the
Great segue.
What we were told is that the final report, so the work groups will be functioning over the next few months, and then a final report I think is due in June, and then that will guide our next step. So as we go into policy IKF, and I just want to talk a little bit about what we're presenting tonight, based upon the feedback you gave us at the last meeting. And to me, it falls into two buckets. The theme of the night is buckets, apparently. So the 2026 bucket, which are the students that are going to march in June, how do we make sure that they've met the requirement? And then we have students in the class of 27 and beyond. And I think that, you know, we acknowledge that let's wait and see where this lands so that we can continue to, okay, we might need a plan for the class of 27 that bridges as we begin the work with the younger grades. So. So I guess we have to wait for the final recommendations to come out, and then, you know, some of this may have to be written into regulation or even law in order to enact. So, you know, there's still some time to figure that part out. All right.
Do you remember, Dr. Jetty, I think that the next, so this is all a recommendation, and it will be reviewed and approved. Do I remember, like, this summer?
In June.
Is that right, in June?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, final recommendations, and then
Final
they'll have to enact it in June. So
Okay.
we'll be back with IKF next year. I'm just saying that that's my prediction. I think we're going to deal with IKF tonight. We're going to do our best implementation of this, and then it'll be back for another topic, another conversation next year. All right. So now.
And IKF is our moment to apply what we just heard to Hull. Hence the segue comment.
I think if you click away from it.
Stop it.
Oh,
So, at the last meeting, and again, I'm glad Rob is here to help answer questions on this.
Oh, get the mic.
I'll go back to that. Where's the strikeout sentence?
Bottom.
Still down further?
Right?
Oh, yeah, I see it now, thank you. So, I'm gonna point here, and then I'm gonna come back to the mic to explain that. So, this is policy IKF that you saw at the last meeting. We had a lot of dialogue just relative to the look back to the final exams that were administered for the current seniors as early as their 9th grade year. And what the committee asked us to do, and I was really clear, I clarified, I'm like, you want us to strike this sentence. So there it is, with that sentence struck out of it. And so we're bringing it back tonight as you've requested. The other link that is in there is the template worksheet that we're gonna have to submit to DESE that explains how we're implementing their guidance relative to graduation. And Rob and I have talked about language that we think we can put in there that will be supportive of this policy and how we know that our class of 2026 is meeting the requirements with that sentence struck out. So there is language that we feel we can put in there. Full disclosure to the committee, though, is that somebody at DESE is going to review all these submissions that are due by December 31st. Again, we'll word it in a way that explains what our local policy is and why we're confident that the students who are getting a diploma will have met that requirement. But there's some likelihood that somebody kicks it back and says, I need more info, or this doesn't meet our expectations. So I just want to be clear that, you know, we're willing to put the work in to explain where we've landed. We feel like we can word it in a way that will get us where we need to be, and we're not the only school district that has struggled with that language. And so the question will be, what does DESE do with it once we do that submission, potentially next week or the week after the Christmas holiday.
So to be really clear, just to say back what I am hearing, you've struck the part that we had an objection to in our own policy, and then that will inform how you have to complete this document that you've shared with us. That doesn't say specifically anything specific about end of year assessments, but does ask you to outline how we're going to determine mastery or determine completion of these courses. And I'm putting an extra fine point on it. And it's very possible we might move forward with this as it's presented here that meets the suggestions from our last meeting. And it could be, we could have to revisit. We may find out that DESE didn't agree with us.
I
Is that
don't
right?
know that I would say very possible.
Mhm.
I would just say possible. It is possible that they will kick this back, but we would not be the only school district in that situation.
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear from the committee, but that is a risk I personally am willing to take.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Do we have a sense of, so would there be an extension, or is the deadline of December 31st?
Well, the deadline is I think DESE picked a December 31st deadline because they wanted to allow school committees to do this work, you know, to get the policy updated over the fall. And that'll give them a review time. They're gonna have to be quick at this. They can't get back to us in May, right? They're gonna have to get back to us pretty quickly in terms of whether that has met their expectations or not. And I think it's gonna, I would predict that if it doesn't, they'll be very directive, saying you must do the following under some regulation, maybe.
And in that case, like I would remind the committee that, you know, Dr. Shaw has also told us explicitly that whether or not that phrase is in there is not going to be a determinant for whether any of our class of 2026 actually graduates. So if it got kicked back and it was last minute and we had to move quickly, I think we could. I think we would have made our statement.
Yeah, I guess where I was going with that is I think all of us need to be prepared for that and have an idea of, you know, a plan B, or what our
Yeah.
response is gonna be.
And, you know, to put a finer point on that, with or without that sentence, it has no impact on the class of 26.
Yep.
So removing that sentence is exactly the same scenario as leaving that sentence in. So we're taking a stand,
We're taking a stand.
and we're comfortable with the stand, and we're comfortable explaining the stand and answering the questions on the template. And again, we'll just leave it up to what happens from that.
Do you anticipate that they are, that they reject it on any other part of it? Or maybe they don't care about the sentence that we struck, but maybe there's some other portion of this document that they may object to.
I'm looking at Rob, I don't think so. I think this is the piece that we have to be able to answer how we know our students have met competency. You know, so we can say things like, every student has taken and participated in an end-of-course assessment. The end-of-course assessment was designed to cover the overall course objectives, and that every student earned the credit having participated in the final. So there's language that we can use here that I think will answer it, but
But it's a good question. I think based on the presentations I've heard, it sounds like we've checked all the other boxes. This is the only one that we seem
My
to be
understanding
sort
too.
of, yeah.
Well, so I have a question on the template. It explains that for general satisfactory coursework, it's of a grade, of a passing grade of 70, and all of their points. But then for the showing mastery, how do we explain that there when it's quite literally saying capstone, portfolio, or end of course assessment?
so we'll use language like, and Rob, help me if I.
Completed. Student completed a final assessment in the course, which does not mean passed or failed,
Right.
just
Okay.
took it.
Right.
That course was aligned to the state standards, that the material administered over 180 instructional days was aligned to the standards, and that the overall body of evidence shows that the student, by passing the course, achieved the standards. So those are the kinds of answers that we'll frame that out around.
Guys have suddenly become lawyers.
Does that feel?
I appreciate that you struck it out. I know that there were feelings that it was silly that we made this stands, but it's an important one to me. So I wish the state would stand by their, you know, they allowed us the opportunity to vote out a high stakes test, and they keep trying to push one back on with a different name, and I am offended by that. So this is one reason I'd like to just strike out our one high stakes test that was in there, so.
Just walk me through it again. So December 31st, we have to have a draft or a proposal submitted, correct? Which is in 16 days?
So by December 31st, we have to complete the template that's linked in the agenda that
Okay.
answers the questions about what our graduation policy is and competency determination. So this revised IKF, and you have to go back to 2 meetings ago, the first version had a lot of red line that we deleted out, and now we're down to this single
Gotcha.
sentence. And so we've revised this policy to make sure going forward that we meet the expectations of the department.
I guess it's dinner time and I want to eat, so I'm trying to figure out, when you do that, where's the meat and potatoes? How do we create a non-curriculum curriculum? And what does that look like for Hull, and how do we put ourselves on the map? That's what I'm really trying to figure out. Like, is that later on in
Just
the
went
year?
so big on me.
I'm vegetarian, actually, so no, not at all. But no, seriously, how do we like, you know, really
I think it's
define
in, I think it's back to the last slide deck. I think it's those 7 buckets and
Yeah.
how we frame that out. And do it within, I mean, DESE is still gonna have a core that they're expecting students to be able to do.
Yeah.
But I think our pathways and opportunities around that core are the things that we have to dream and try to figure out how to
So
do.
that, I guess I had that question when you were going through that. So that process, is that a group with Dr. Shaw and the whole high school team? Is it Ms. Capadonna, is it like, are you bringing in a consultant? What are you thinking about right now?
I think it's yes to all of those pieces, but really it's about understanding the 7 buckets, and then how do we frame out what that looks like.
Procedurally, like, just to zoom out just a little bit, so this is our local policy that we have the right to vote on.
Yep.
And that's what we're gonna do tonight. DESI then has the option to say whether or not that it was sufficient. I don't think, there's not, and maybe this answers your vegetarian meat and potatoes
fake meat.
question, fake meat. You know, this, because because of the work that has already been done,
Yeah.
our schools are already in line with it's MassCore, right? Is that, I mean, we've already have been doing most of these things. The piece that we're fighting back about that is really just about that, just that end of unit assessment. So I don't know, I mean, I think there's work to be done to like bring the UDL piece into the conversation and also think about capstones and all these other pieces. Sounds like that's in play, and we'll move forward once we get more information from, well, actually, I don't even know if we need more information from DESI, right? Like, it sounds like everyone's really on the same page of like, we like this idea of some sort of opportunity for students to demonstrate their mastery in some unique and creative way, and that, I mean, that I don't think we need to wait for DESI for that. And so that, yeah, I don't know if that clarifies anything, Brendan, but but it gave me a chance to talk. So.
I mean, looking at the template, it seems like we're aligned, other than the showing of the mastery piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the mastery is that they got the passing score in the
Well,
course.
I hear that, of course, but in the template, how it states it. So our wording has to be aligned with our policy.
Dr. Shaw worked his magic.
Of course.
I think that's where student completed the final assessment will get us a long way. It's also very helpful to us that our final assessments are part of the computation of a final grade, and were as far back as 3 years ago for this class of 26. So I think those will be the pieces. We have students participating in final assessments that were part of a final score, regardless of whether they passed or failed those final assessments, and then had final grades in those courses. So
We're gonna
to
have
your
to
point
read
about lawyerly language, I think
Yeah.
that's where we're.
But
And
just
either way, we're
just so
readdressing.
I fully understand, so the student completes the course, and whether they pass or fail, they can graduate, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The course has to be passed.
Oh, it does,
The
okay.
course,
Yes.
two different things. There's the course and then the final assessment. The course definitely has to be passed. This is leaving room for the final assessment to be one or the other.
Okay.
But because that final assessment was included in the computation of the final grade of the course,
Yep.
the final grade of the course is counting for mastery.
Okay.
So I have another question.
And remember, that's the look back. I think
Yes.
the other piece is engaging with our staff over the design of the assessments going forward, so that, you know, if we understand that is a final competency determination, that's a different development going forward. So that's the other part of this, right? That this is all about looking back to a test maybe 3 years ago.
Which I assume would continually evolve, like every year you could have a new subject or mastery that somebody might come up with.
Well, I think that's where we're headed,
Yeah,
based on the recommendations of the state.
you had a question, I interrupted you.
I'm ready to move forward. We have hashed out this document so many times that, you know, I just,
Would you like, is
I
there,
would
is
like
there
to
a
make a
motion?
motion to approve this
to-
document with
Well,
the
thank you,
strikeout
first of all, I
sentence.
think it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And just a friendly reminder, I think, Maggie, I'm looking at you, we have to waive the second read on this, so the motion has to make this a final third read vote, so.
So is there a motion to waive the second reading and move forward with approval of policy document IKR, is that what it is?
F.
I'll make the
IKF.
motion.
IKR, as it is written here. IKF, dang, so close. As it is presented here, is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Brendan has moved, is there a second?
I'll second.
Eliza has seconded. All those in favor of waiving our second reading and approving IKF as it is written here, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It is unanimous.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Really, thank you for all of it.
All right, so next up, we have a budget financial overview. So I'm going to turn this over to Diane and step away from the.
While Diane is walking up, just a little bit of background here. The budget subcommittee, we met a couple weeks ago before our last meeting. And as we go into the budget season and are moving forward with putting together next year's budget, I asked Diane if she would just make sure that we are all on the same page and understand how our schools are funded. And it's also an opportunity for the community to have a sense of that as well. But it just feels very timely as we kick off this process that we would have a shared understanding.
Sure, so good evening. This is just a brief slideshow to go along with, in your packet, you had the wordy document explaining it, so this is just a brief slideshow. So, So we're just going to begin with Chapter 70, State Aid. The state uses a very complex formula to provide funding for each public school in the Commonwealth. As you can see from the chart, over the last 9 years, funding hasn't really changed very much. We went from 3.8 million in fiscal year 17 to just over 4 million in fiscal 25. State aid has not kept pace with the rising cost of public education. However, the state is currently looking at the funding formula. But as you know, change does not happen quickly. And I do not expect any change for the upcoming budget season. I think it'll be the same funding formula. Chapter 70 is paid directly to the town, and it's used to fund our town appropriation. So our town appropriation is what we refer to as our school budget. It's voted on each May at town meeting. It's made up of Chapter 70 funds and local receipts, which basically come from property taxes. Chapter 70 aid historically has been about 20 to 25% of our total town appropriation. Circuit Breaker is a state reimbursement program. It's the state's attempt to assist with the high cost of providing special education services for our students. Very briefly, the state reimburses district a percentage of the individual tuition and transportation costs above a threshold that you can see there. We file per student claims at the end of each fiscal year, and the state reviews those claims and pays the reimbursement quarterly in the following year. We put those funds into a separate dedicated account, the Circuit Breaker account, and expend them in the following fiscal year. So it's like a 3-year process. The first year you incur the expense, file the claim. Second year you receive the reimbursements. Third year we spend the funds. Let's see here. By allowing the funds to be held that year that we're receiving them, it just gives us and districts across the Commonwealth some security and flexibility in meeting those unexpected. You know, if we have a student move in with some high level of need, or a student during the year, their placement has to change, we can tap into some of those funds in the year that we receive them to cover some of those unanticipated expenses. So as you can see in this chart, beginning in FY21, the state started including transportation as part of the eligible cost to be reimbursed, and it was a phase-in over 3 years. So the FY25 reimbursement rate is listed as TBD because although we're receiving those reimbursements currently, until the fourth quarter payment, that's when the state knows where they are fiscally and how much exactly we're slated to receive. We, as of right now, they're budgeting it'll be a reimbursement rate of 75% for tuition and 61.36 for transportation. So a little less than the 75. Grants and revolving funds. So all grants have to be approved by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. There's strict guidelines for the use of those funds. Federal grants typically can be expended over 2 years, and state grants typically over 1 year. The grant funding process is a reimbursement model as well. We spend funds based on the approved budget, and then periodically throughout the year submit claims for reimbursement based on those approved funds. Local revolving funds are funds that are set up for a particular dedicated purpose. They need to have a dedicated revenue source, and the funds from those accounts can be rolled forward year over year. And then finally, this slide just shows for last school year, FY25, where all of our funding came from. So local receipts, again, thank you, the town has been very supportive. 69.2% of all of our funding all of our expenditures came from local receipts. 20.5% came from Chapter 70 state funding. 1.8% was from circuit breaker, 3.5% was grant funded, and about 5% was out of revolving funds, with almost half of that for the school meals program. Again, this was just to be a very quick overview on the sources of funds, and next month we'll hear more specifics when we present the FY27 budget. So that was, again, very quickly, but happy to answer any questions.
And it's due for approval next month, right?
We'll present our budget for FY27 ask next month. Yep.
Any questions about the sources of our funding?
I guess where's their opportunity? Because you hear or you see certain classes were cut, and I guess this is where it would fall into our remit. And part of our job as either school committee or parents would be to try and help the town or the kids or the schools out to get more for what they need. Where are those gaps in the education system that we may have had previously that we don't have anymore, and how can we help?
I think we've done a really good job. Back in 2008, 2009, there were a lot of cuts. We've brought back pretty much most, if not all. So I do believe that we have everything that we need. There's always going to be wants and the grand scale. I do think we're well funded and appropriately funded.
Yeah, and the grant funding is 3.5%. Is that written? Are they written by teachers, parents? Do we have a grant writer?
Most of them are written in central office. There's the IDEA grant is special ed, so Kristen and I work on that. There's title grants that Mike, Christine, and I work on. There's it just depends on what their funding source is. Sometimes the Innovation Pathway grant Rob worked on. So we see an opportunity and kind of
that's why I was calling it out.
Find
yeah.
who
dig
makes
in there.
sense.
Mm-hmm. Many of those grants are entitlement grants, so there's a dollar amount, and then we're just figuring out how to allocate that. The one Rob did was competitive because the request exceeded what the state had available. They were going to have to make choices within that. So, and by the way, we got notice of round 2, I think, today. So, but that's very exciting work. But that does take it takes vision and application. not that the entitlements don't. And then the other piece to just point out is, you know, I'm using the phrase entitlement because we have come in education to rely on the federal government having those grants available to us, and I just am couching that this year in a uncertain environment, that, you know, we're looking at 3.5% of our budget coming from those grants, and there's just uncertainty.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not going to be there, but there's uncertainty about what reliability there is. So.
And we usually go into more detail throughout the year.
I think one other thing to emphasize the question that you asked. So our challenge is declining enrollment and right-sizing staff relative to the students that we have in front of us. So some of the programmatic decisions that were made last year, they were not budget driven. They were not, we need to save money to do this, right? They were just, there are not enough students requesting a certain course, or there are not enough students in a certain grade level to warrant having the number of teachers that we had last year, so we're gonna have to downsize that for the year ahead. So those are the dialogues that we're having, but it's not, there was not a single, because of the budget, we have to take this reduction. Those were not part of the metrics that went into this development for the current year.
And for that, we are very grateful to, well, to your good stewardship of the funds, and also just that, you know, I think our school committee broadly has done a nice job of making sure to maintain really a really tight pulse on those funds. And, you know, you see the total cost to run this district at the bottom, 100%. The fact that we are fully funded is not something to be taken for granted. There are a lot of districts that do not have that.
Correct.
So it's a point of real pride.
But it's we are not in the dire straits that a lot of the districts are in. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Diane.
you.
Thank you, Diane.
So just a couple of other quick things to wrap up this part of the agenda. So, hang on, because I jumped around, I want to make sure that we hit everything. I think we have. We're down to 7.6. So I provided you with the South Shore Educational Collaborative Quarterly Report. And so I'll be adding those on the agenda. So after our presentation by the collaborative, these reports do come in, and I want to make sure that I share those with the committee so that you can see that. And then I left the last meeting with a fairly thick financial packet that Diane and I have not had time to coordinate around, but we'll be doing that also. So just be assured that that's a piece that we'll be doing in the office to make sure that there are multiple eyes on their financial update, right? Any questions from the report? All right, I'll plug ahead. So charting the course. So Eliza and I went to the Cape, I lost track, 2 weekends ago? I'm not even sure.
I think so, December 6th.
To take the charting the course. So I was at a South Shore superintendent meeting, and Mask was there presenting, and they said superintendents should take the class. I'm like, I didn't know I could. So I signed up, and it was actually very eye-opening to receive that training. So, and one piece that so my biggest takeaway of the day was understanding where district goals sit with school board goals, sit with superintendent goals, sit with principal goals, sit with school improvement goals, and so kind of walked away with a pyramid hierarchy of what comes first, what's the foundation. And so that is one of the things that is on my agenda to work on during the school vacation week. So just trying to figure out how to get all those pieces to fit together. So I got clarity for the first time, because I was frankly a little bit confused as to whose goals come first and what everything is layered upon, and I received clarity in that course, and we'll work on it from here.
Great.
And all those goals being foundationed by the budget.
Of course.
I want to thank you for going. Dr. Jetty was the only superintendent there, and they welcomed it and praised him for going out of his way and doing above and beyond, and I appreciate that also, that you did that. It was a long day, but it was a really, really good day. I learned so much about the process of the school committee and our roles and responsibilities, and where the lines are drawn between superintendent's responsibilities and our responsibility as school committee members, in addition to like open meeting laws and how to run subcommittees and things like that. It was a really valuable day. So, yeah. I think that it would behoove everyone to take it, but also maybe go again after a few years have passed, that it was a really valuable experience. And the food was all right, too.
They fed you.
They fed us.
So Brendan and I and Lily and I have already done charting the course, but we plan to do it again in January.
17th,
And
I
Brendan
think.
is, yeah, 24th. So that will mean all of us have completed. Courtney, you did it, you're doing it in January as well? Oh, so we're all going.
Same time, same place? Awesome.
Quickly, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great.
Will you carpool?
No.
No. Do you want to come with us?
I just went, and Dr. Jetty and I did carpool, and
Maybe. We'll have a vote.
We'll have, yeah.
So just to share an observation too, listening to some of the questions that were coming. So remember, there were, I don't know, 50 people in the room?
yeah.
And some of the questions that were being asked, we concluded we've got it pretty good in Hull, because it was like, holy
Yes.
smokes, they didn't understand that? I mean, and I don't mean that in a belittling way, but I was like, it was very eye-opening to listen to the way some other communities operate. We really have, I think, some really solid bones to the way that we approach things, and it will allow us to continue the work going forward.
I agree with that. You did steal all my bullet points, so I don't really have much to say.
I'm sorry.
No, but I'm happy to hear that you and I are on the same page with the really important takeaways. You know, I thought it was a great conference.
So Mike's learning he should let the school committee member talk first.
No, you're more articulate than I could ever hope to be, so thank you for.
Wonderful, thank you.
So one other quick thing, I just want to give a plug, and if it was said tonight and I missed it, I apologize, but I just want to really speak to the student performances this weekend with the Once Upon a Mattress play. Phenomenal, really a great experience. It was good to see a decent-sized crowd in the auditorium. There were 4 performances, and so that went very, very well. And you see a different side of students, I think, when they're up on stage performing, and so that was very, I welcome that opportunity. Claudia and I chose to open our house to the cast party, and I just have to say, you know, I don't know how many students came over, 30. Polite, thankful, gracious. I mean, what great kids we have. And, you know, it's very easy in the day-to-day grind to get caught up into things that aren't positive, and yet here I am, it's like everybody was so wonderful. So that was a great experience for us, and we were happy to host. So
I just want to mention on that too, the O'Donnell directors, they opened the door for our elementary, middle school drama club to come and watch a dress rehearsal, which I thought was kind of nice to, you know, include them and make them feel elite in that way. So I know some of them went back and saw the show 3 times this weekend, including my kids. So
that's awesome.
kudos to the high school theater program.
I love the theater crew, the O'Donnells and all the kids that are involved every year. I am sad that my own children refuse to dive in, but it's such a great group. I'm not surprised at all to hear that they were gracious and kind at your open house.
And then the last thing is the 5-minute update, so on school safety. So if you saw in the news recently, there was a school on the other side of the city that had to close because of a norovirus outbreak in the school. And so I think, we often think about physical safety, but this is a reminder to everybody that before coming here, after people had left the office, I went and found the hand sanitizer supply and brought it to my office, because I'm like, this is the time of year that we just need to make sure that we're exercising the good hygiene. And our attendance levels are up a little bit. They're not alarming, but just a reminder to hand sanitize, wash your hands, just be mindful, especially as we go into the holiday. Nobody wants to bring that illness into the holiday. It is not a gift. So just a reminder to everybody, and I know our nurses are continually reinforcing in the schools the need to keep healthy going forward. So that's my school safety reminder. Wash your hands. What was it? Sing the birthday song. All those things that we learned during the pandemic, we have to be reminded of, although this is a different illness at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Fantastic. Okay, a couple more things on our end. School committee policy issues. In your packet, you have seen policy EFC, which is the Universal Free School Meals policy. I'm assuming this is a first reading, or do we?
Actually, we're going to do all three. We're going to waive the 3 readings, go right to adoption. If you remember, a few weeks ago, we had 3 other food-related policies.
Yeah.
Well, we forgot to include this one, and it's due at the end, January?
June.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, is there a motion from a school committee member to waive our second and third reading and move forward with adopting policy EFC?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Courtney, and Eliza second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous. Great. Old business items. We have 2 subcommittees. There was one subcommittee, something. Oh, yeah. Do you want to talk about subcommittees?
Sure.
Like there was something.
There was something. So we had talked about setting our goals and then creating our subcommittees based on our goals. So I had come up with something I shared with Kyle and Mike and Maggie, but so I was catering to that, our subcommittees, and I think I should send this to you so you can kind of look it over. One could be student achievement, one for community engagement, budget and resource, governance and policy, and superintendent evaluation. And then I drafted some purposes of each subcommittee, so what the purpose of that group would be. And then within that, what would your goals be as it aligns to our school committee goals that we're gonna try to establish? So I think if I just share it with them, I think it might be easier for you all to just kind of look it over and come up with your ideas and feedback and how the purpose could align with the goals there.
Yeah.
That's great.
So if you share that, thank you for that work, Lily.
Sure.
That was fantastic. If you share that with us, then I wonder if we can maybe on the next agenda just have time to finalize and get those finally set, so that we can do that publicly and, yeah. Then
Yeah. And a reminder, we've got a little bit of time because of the holidays, so we next meet on January 12th, so we can polish this up the week after Christmas and
Yep.
make sure it's
Okay.
ready to go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think also, maybe all 4 of you will go to the charting the course or review it, and I think that will be really good in advance of talking about the document that Lily has created.
If,
That's great.
once I share that, whatever your takeaway was, feel free to provide the feedback. And then, because that's not till the end of January anyway, but
Oh, right.
yeah, so I think that would be helpful. Just look it over and see how it aligns with whatever your
Dr.
takeaway
Jenny,
was.
do you know if the slides that they provided in paper format, were they available electronically? Did they?
I couldn't find it.
They give you a drive, or maybe they didn't. They give you a flash drive.
We did
We
not.
did not receive flash
Well, I
drives.
have
I
mine.
did get a bound copy of state law, which I don't want, but.
could wrap,
Good for
it's
starting
a
fire.
great Yankee swap gift. But we, actually, I asked Maggie to try to get one of the slides, that gold pyramid, I
Yeah.
wanted that slide. But we'll see if we can get a call in.
I'll see if I have my flash drive, yeah.
This is where you find out you were not supposed to take the flash drive.
Right, she's in trouble. America's Most Wanted.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
They know where to find me.
There's a poster of Lily. Yes.
Overachieving over here.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, that's great. And then also, Maggie, this is sort of unrelated, but just, would you also mind sending us, sending the school committee the list of all of our scheduled open session meetings, the calendar list?
Just a
of the-
regular calendar, yeah.
Yep. Okay, we don't have any donations to accept today. We do have some warrants that are being approved as we continue to keep an eye on our budget. Is there any other new business or correspondence to or comments from community or school committee members? Okay, then in that case, at 8:23, I would invite a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Lily motioned, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? 8:23.
Thank you.
Thanks.